here at the back? I think this workshop's focus is on trying to understand how IT can help out with HR. My session is not too technically oriented in the sense, neither do I have a software with me, but what I'm trying to share with you is what I have understood in terms of what can be the role of HR analytics to help companies in helping out with their employees. See, there are two basic questions I believe that most companies are bothered about, right? One is, this hits all of us. Why are employees leaving? Right? A core question, why are employees leaving? And if they remain, why are they not being as productive as they could be? I think these two things are, maybe very basic questions which companies are bothered about. So, my proposition from whatever I have understood, I would say that HR analytics can play a key role in trying to answer some of these questions. One or two of these, right? Okay, now as we understood, why are people leaving and if they can be productive. So why are you bringing in people? Because you put them through a big test and selection and all those procedures, you bring them in. So the assumption is that they will be maximally productive or optimally productive. And so if they are not being so, then what is the problem? There is a problem. Okay, so as I told you, HR analytics has two different types of focus. One would be based on secondary data, okay, employee coded data. Like we go through some of these, and I have a small Excel. I'm not doing any calculations, but I'm wanting you to develop. I'll give you some very short exercises maybe towards the end, depending on how much time we have for the session. Now, KPMG, you must have heard, is a very famous consulting company, and they are looking at what is the role of this employee data. How does it help companies? And some of their observations are the following. There are too many systems that exist to record employee data. You can have as many, you can have a huge database of different kinds of things about information about the employees, okay? And every department may maintain a different kind of a database, whether it's all synchronized is one thing. So they can be sometimes fragmented. The other is too much of attention is given to reporting data, and unless and until the so-called recorded data is linked to business outcomes and strategic goals, it's just nice to have all this data, okay? But how does it help to answer those key questions? From another point of view, usually people in HR do not have, they are not very number friendly. This is the usual assumption, and so therefore they can't be analytical, and therefore they cannot get into a lot of statistics or quantitative analysis, and so therefore we will not load them with so much of work. Max would be some dashboards you get. Not all companies do that. I'm not trying to generalize that, but the assumptions or the general understanding is that HR is just being nice, giving smiles and helping you in many different things and not getting into a real support for the management. But then through HR analytics, HR can play an important role in giving answers to some of the questions for the management, the questions that they will have on the employees about why they are leaving and what can make them more productive. Okay, now what is this HR analytics? You must have heard of business analytics. I think you may have a course. The idea is very simple. You're having a lot of data and you're analyzing them and you're trying to find something out. So HR analytics are also the same. It's not any different. So analytics in the context of HR, in the context of HR. HR means what? Human resources, any people, anything about employees. Now customer relations may not get into this, but I personally believe that most of these methodologies and techniques that we use is the same across, whether it's marketing, whether it's HR or whether it's operations. Of course, operations is more mathematical in that sense, but HR may not get into that much. But we do make use of it. We can make use of a lot of good quantitative amount of studies and statistics. Now, so analytics is the science of analysis, and therefore to reach conclusions for HR would mean HR analytics. See, I am not touching anything too technical. I am only trying to build an awareness in many of you about what exactly what is this all about and how it can be helpful for all of us. See, the thrust of my presentation is more to look at where you can also make use of primary data. Okay. Now, in the last presentation by Mr. Prasad, we do understand that there are a lot of software available. PeopleSoft, OrangeSoft. Orange is something that is open source. You can also test it and see. Now, some of these allow us to analyze data. Now, what do we mean by analyze? We'll get into that a little later. But they allow us to maintain a lot of data on employees. Okay. Now, let me ask our audience, what are the types of data that can be maintained on an employee? What are the types of data? Information, to be precise. What can be maintained on an employee? Supposing you're taken in, okay, after your placement you get to a company. What are some of the things that the company will take from you? What will it record out of you as an individual?
Qualifications.
Okay. Skills. Education. Okay. They may put you through some personality test maybe. Okay. Then in terms of birth orientation, conscientiousness. There are so many personality traits also. Okay. Then what else? Anything else? Any extra project skills that you have acquired, previous work experience, from where you come from. Okay. That is the geography. What languages you may know. What kind of projects. See, these are all very, very simple things. But a company takes care to, because you feel, most companies, if you fill it into the intranet, you have all these data available for their HR. And in fact, even across the projects, etc., in bigger companies, they will seek out. They will, though you don't call it poaching, that is, the project managers will be looking at whether I can look at this kind of a profile and bring that person into my project and so on. So therefore, the intranet is available and people can get sometimes access to different types of details on the employees. Okay, this is at a simple level. Now, when those data sets are maintained, it is not just a database. We need to go further in terms of trying to understand and make sense out of the data, right? So that's where the role of HR analytics. Now, in our earlier presentation, we began to understand, of course, this is quite technical and mathematical, that in workforce planning, you can look at, estimate the constraints, understand the constraints, make certain assumptions, okay, about what kind of a set of people can come in, under what conditions, what could be the distribution and so on, and then predict. For example, the example that the gentleman gave was about how succession planning, okay, that is, if from juniors to the middle you move, and from the middle to the top you move, instead of bringing people from outside, if you can plan something from inside, can that make sense? Of course it makes sense for the company, because the employee cost will be lower. Why would employee cost be lower? Because you reduce on the cost of bringing the person, training the person, etc. And if you are being nice to the employee will think of being in the company, and therefore it will go on. So again, you are reducing employee cost. So therefore, this planning, when workforce planning, we saw many examples of different types of permutation combinations using mathematical algorithms, and you are defining certain constraints and defining certain assumptions. Okay. Now, for example, the one of the assumption was 15% of every level will move to the next level every year, okay, based on promotions. Now, another question that comes, now these are all very important, because when you are leading big organizations with lakhs of people and MNCs and so on in different countries, cross-nationally, it's a huge challenge for you. People are interested in taking up global assignments. Now, how do you decide what is aptitude? There are so many questions that company will have to grapple with, right? And one of the important challenges is that you have lots of employees sitting out there who are very different, but then their data will be recorded, will be with us. So how do we make sense with that data? Okay, now here we found that workforce planning can be done with huge people. When you have to make major estimations. You can go one-on-one asking people. With whatever data available, with the mathematical algorithms, you tend to predict. Okay, that is an important function in HR analytics. So you assess the value of employees, you assess how much needs to come. Now, for example, succession planning, if you take, you have an assumption and policy that 50% of the people will move from J to M and M to T, that is junior to middle and middle to top management. Now when we make these assumptions, the other thing that comes in is attrition. Now, will all the people